Okay, so these are the same notes. I didn't hand them out to you last time. You've got the small version, as you can see, of them. And so just since it's been a week since we've been here, so the scientific method is based on observation, where you have a systematic pursuit of knowledge involving the recognition and formulation of a problem, the collection of data through observation, an experiment, and the formulation of testing a hypothesis. So that is, as I said, what very few scientists do, but that's what it's supposed to be, scientific method. And often things have gotten so out of whack in the world where scientists don't follow this. And the reason they don't is because, as I've said, theory is the name of the game these days, and which is anti-scientific. It's about philosophy. And things are so out of whack that if I go to a scientist and start preaching things in accordance with observation and data and scientific method, I'll have people criticize me. If I go and say, do you have any evidence for, some theory you have, like tectonics or whatever, and they'll start saying a bunch of theories. I'll say, no. What can you point to that I can see? And then they'll act like I'm some troublemaker or something for doing that. So, and then hypothesis is you try to form a model. It's very simple. You just try to explain why it happens, why whatever you observed happens, and you want to explain your observation. So there you do present a theory, but you try to stay as closely as possible. So you present a theory, staying you present a theory staying as close as possible to empirical ideas. So you try to fit your hypothesis into your empirical ideas and views of your life, not into your theoretical ideas and views. Okay? Because the reason is because empirical ideas are more successful at explaining things than theoretical ideas. Theoretical ideas almost never hit the mark. The most powerful way of explaining is empirical, as you know. The second most powerful is mathematical reasoning. The third most powerful is religious reasoning. And the fourth most powerful is just blind theorization. So it's way at the bottom of the list. And then remember last time we talked about how you want to include the least emotional irrationalization in your hypothesis making. Now that's not a word, but I like the way it sounded, so I put it in there. Yeah?
How would you say religious reasoning?
Oh, okay. Religious reasoning is very... I'm glad you asked that, because I did kind of just fly over that rather big issue. The religions of the world, most of the time we're taught that Christianity is about faith, about some belief or something, which is a little bit of a problem in this class, right? But if you look more closely at the religions, they involve experience. Like St. Paul, when he was on the road to Damascus, he's an experience of God, and he falls to the ground, his whole life changes. Buddha, sitting under the Bodhi tree, all that was based on having religious experience. So they have very strict experiences. So it's almost a form of empiricism, in a way. So they're based, they have certain experiences which are not of the world, but are of some religious power or something that's everywhere. And then they base their models, like St. Paul. He changed his whole worldview and his whole life based on what he saw in that vision. And so it's an experiential, religions are experiential. They've kind of been a little bit, kind of dumbed down a little bit in the world, with all the big TV ministers. And there's the same stuff goes on in India with Hindus and Buddhists, and we've got all kinds of charlatans and so forth. But it is based on experiential work. So if it is, it therefore should be a powerful mode of reasoning, I would say. Mathematical reasoning is the toughest one, because is it empirical? It's not really empirical that often, but we always find out that mathematical reasoning, if you project it onto the world, It always fits somewhere because the world is mathematical. I mean, there have been cases where people have discovered systems of mathematics, didn't know where they fit. And all of a sudden they find out, oh, they fit here. So they have all the mathematics worked out that somebody worked out 50 years earlier. And then they find some system in the world like, I mean, big, not little stuff, big stuff, like quantum physical operations, the little teeny particles that make up everything. You know, people needed a mathematics to use to explain them, so they reached into all these different algebras, and it perfectly explained it. So mathematical reasoning is powerful, but strange where it fits in, because it's, I don't know, it's almost like it's a level above everything. So yeah, good question. Thanks for asking that. That's, sorry I didn't pass over that.
Wouldn't you say so a mathematical solution would only be a temporary assessment? Because, you know, everything is subject to change, and math is infinite.
What do you mean?
What I'm talking about is that, let's say they're trying to figure out, I don't know, why that plastic is the way it is by utilizing mathematics. Okay? Well,
okay.
In the end result, math can continuously go on. There is it's just infinite. There's no ending.
Oh, I see. So it's like infinite through time. You can always go do more and more math. Yeah, yeah. And that's exactly what's going on.
So it's not an actual. It's not an actual. It can't be considered empirical.
Yeah.
Because
you see, it fits onto empirical systems, but when you develop it, it's almost not even.
It's still theory, because all theory, everything is constant, it's changing.
Well, not really.
Everything is constantly changing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Some idea, something some scientists came up with today is going to be just totally squashed 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Well, Einstein used super crazy math to...
No, he used real low-level math.
Yeah.
But I mean, he did use math.
For relativity?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's real low-level stuff.
That's
really?
It's calculus 3, difference equations.
I read somewhere that it took a supercomputer to...
Not for Einstein. No, that stuff's real. I mean, anybody taking difference equations? Yeah, it's really, you have, oh, sorry, not so, yeah, it's low, but anyway, what were you going to say, though?
No, that was just what I thought of. If there's probably
but he used math.
With relativity.
He used thought experiments and mathematical equations and it did predict amazing things about the world.
Yeah, the point
similar scenario.
Is that, I mean, you know, unless it's something that is a complete and utter visual aid or a confirmed sighting of something, okay, to take it out of hypothesis. The hypothesis, to me, it just remains theory. I mean, no matter what it is. I don't care what type of evidence is presented.
Yeah.
If it's mathematical, if it's religious, I mean, because to me, religion is based upon a faith-based system. I mean, bottom line. I don't believe that Paul fell and went blind. Okay?
Okay.
I didn't see it.
Okay.
Okay.
You're right. I mean, you're describing a good set of ideas there, because, if you don't have religious experience, how do you know their experience existed? I mean, if you say to the Zen Buddhist, point to your enlightenment experience, and they can't. I mean, I can point to the desk, but I can't point to his religious experience, his or hers. So you'd have to be in it to know that it's there, and until you're there, you don't know it's there. They could just be talking.
I would say unless something is actually witnessed or seen by one or two, I would say 2 to 4 maybe individuals, to me it's not empirical. And I honestly believe that if they utilize that as a foundation for proving something's validity, I don't care if it's scientific theory, if it's religious theory, I don't care what it is. If they use just that aspect, I think we would eliminate so much clutter in the minds of people that it would be ridiculous, and we actually get more end results.
You were just taught to believe that everybody that has an experience is schizophrenic.
Yeah, right.
So,
what do you mean?
Well, that's what they teach. I mean, my ex-wife, when she was going to school for medical assisting, clearly in the book it related the Moses' experience on Mount Sinai.
Oh, really? Are you kidding?
When he experienced
the burning bush.
They said that it was schizophrenia, and they showed the parts of the brain, the external parts of the brain, that are actually become functional when a person is experiencing schizophrenia. And these parts of the brain otherwise are never functional without this experience. So I just thought it was fun to be argued forever.
I gotta research that. That's interesting. So it's parts of the brain that were not previously active became active during schizophrenia.
Yeah, I believe it was external right side of the brain.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good...
I wish I remembered what book it was. I don't want to remember it. Sure.
That's fine. If it's out there, I'll be able to find it.
No. Yeah, it made it clear. I mean, they showed the picture of the burning bush and everything.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's not an empirical claim to say that you'd have, I mean, maybe Moses was schizophrenic in that episode, but you'd have to be there, seeing what was going on, measuring the scenario, making sure, you know, you'd have to really see it to know if, or else you're just making claims about something that you didn't see.
Right.
Which is why that's number 4, wild theorizing. Based on, so why, I mean, well, actually, we should write these down.
But isn't most theory based upon ego? Ego is prevalent in science. I mean, big time.
You mean ego like you're arrogant, or ego like your personality?
You're like, well, probably maybe a combination.
Because when it's like when psychologists or Buddhists or religious people talk about ego, they mean your personality consciousness.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but it also could be a combination of both, though. Not just your ego, your personality, but also what you're saying as well as someone who is basically just thinks they're a know-it-all. Okay? Mm-hmm. They're completely arrogant. Their arrogance factor is just through the roof along with their ego. And that's why, you know, with science, it's like almost like an oxymoron for me to want to go into medicine, because so many different doctors do pretend to be God. They have God syndrome. And with this, I don't care if someone's explaining once again the light, or someone's explaining to me how cancer came about.
Uh-huh.
Okay? The end result is, dude, have you physically seen it? And if you haven't, then shut up.
Yeah, well, I mean, that you're in agreement with what this class is talking about by saying that. I mean, so here are the 4: empiricism, mathematical knowledge, religious knowledge, and that, you know, some of you have a problem with that. That totally is justified. And then undisciplined theorizing. For your burning bush example is right in here. So what is the nature of undisciplined theorizing? You have, it's not based on these 3, not based...
Well, it's coming from a person that didn't have the experience themselves, so...
That's why it's not based on those 3, because that would have to be in here or in here or something.
Right.
So it's just, you know, I mean, think of how many things fall into that. I mean, in your daily life, when you're talking to people or you hear other academics say something, or somebody from church or the court system or whatever, most of it's in here, amazingly. and we continually develop bad ideas as a culture or as an individual people in the culture and do it all over again. We're just used to this. We're used to sloppy thinking and thinking that it's just kind of how people are. And what's the big deal? So I think it is a big deal. That's why we've got culture is such a mess.
We're taught to trust the news, trust the government.
It's all true.
Trust everybody.
I believe that 2 through 4 is just totally...
So you're a strict empiricist. Yeah, I hear you.
Class. 2 through 4 is total
Okay.
class. I mean, you know, 1 is...
I like it. Yeah. I've had times in my life where I just block out 2 through 4 also, and I'm only here. And I strongly bias this one. I mean, sometimes I think 1 and 3 can bridge. For Andy's just coming here, it's religious experience. That's what we're talking about.
I believe 3 could possibly go into consideration of 1, but only if 1 is instituted into 3. Otherwise, speaking on, and I would take the word religious is nothing more to me than a tag. Okay? It's a tag word. I mean, experience is the word.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a certain kind of experience where you're experiencing something that's not normally included in physical observations of physical stuff.
Right, physical observations.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's a physical observation / experience, then it rolls into 1. I mean, whether it's religious, whether it's scientific, whatever the case may be.
Well, empiricism implies that it can be repeated scientifically. Religious experience is not necessarily fit.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, good point. Real good point.
This is true, but religious can.
No, it does.
No, he said not necessarily. It can, but not necessarily.
Right.
Well, no, they teach you. Yeah, but see, there's so many things, like throughout other civilizations, they believe they're having spiritual experiences, whereas in Western culture, we have people, doctors, saying you're just sick, or something
you just
wrong.
ate too many shrooms.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with you.
No, not too many.
So
There's 8
how,
shrooms.
yeah, so how could anybody look at the Bible as anything other than just a bunch of crazy stories based on what people are taught especially in this.
Well, I mean, if I read the average news story, about, or somebody told me about the Big Bang, or Darwin's evolution, well, it's not really, the evolutionary theory that developed first from Darwin's thinking. Just pick a handful of stuff, that there was a war that started and the president later said, oh, we lied about all the reasons. I mean, that stuff, in a sense, is weirder than anything you see in the Bible. So there does seem to be a lack of, think about, here's another concept for you. Think about pure objectivity. What does pure objectivity mean? This is sort of an important concept for a logic class. It means you have, you're devoid of judgments. You guys don't have to write this down. This is just real philosophy, okay? It's not like this is part of the homework or something. Okay, you're devoid of judgments, and you only follow reason. I guess that's an off-the-cuff description of pure objectivity. Devoid of judgments, only follow reason. So with reason, we'd have to hash that out. And that probably means...
You're a misfit.
It probably means some things we're going to talk about later in this handout. Empiricism, positivism, and rationalism. Okay? But let's just leave it simple like that. So if culture acted this way, then when you came across a book like the Bible, or some of the Buddhist, take a Buddhist text, take the Diamond Sutra, is one of my favorites. And, that's more, some people may think it's more bizarre than the Bible. Okay. But if you're purely objective, you don't make an initial judgment. Okay, you just you just go and inspect something through the lens of being a rational thinker. So anything, you can inspect anything, a religious book, a scientific theory, a crazy court case or claim in a court case, and you don't make initial judgments to be biased for or against something initially, and you just take as much information as you can and then make a reasonable assertion. Now, this is really simple and all of you know this, but unfortunately, it's what almost never happens. The typical person, if you throw something at them, such as you were talking about the Bible, they've got all kinds of preconceived ideas which will make them make up their mind to a degree before they inspect whatever it is you're throwing at them, the Bible, a scientific theory, whatever. A lot of people are biased for science and against religion, and then they come to my classes and they find out that, well, science isn't really science typically. Usually it's a big theory-making theory-making scheme, and really devoid of empirical evidence. So then people are surprised that they had a preconceived idea to think that, not pure objectivity, to think that what their idea of science was so lofty. When, like you said last time about Thomas Kuhn. It's really true what Andy said last time about Thomas Kuhn. You go in a science department in a university somewhere, and it's just a big mess. And that's not a bad thing. It's just a fact. People are just trying to get a handle on things, and this Discovery Channel or something may give you the impression that chemists or physicists or somebody has a really good handle on some topic. But if you go into a university department, you'll find out that's not the case. And that's really important to know. So, why do we... what do any of you really know?
Nothing.
Nothing. None of you really know anything, okay? So what grounds do we have to be for or against some scientific theory or some religious principle or anything until you gain a whole lot more knowledge? And the answer is you have no grounds. Yeah, Zach?
I think that the way I think about it is it might be actually necessary to have those theories, because I don't think people would be able to understand things without somebody giving them a little boost in the beginning. Because
Okay.
Like
Good point,
I
yeah.
think it would be good for people to think without, you know, like external forces, you know, telling them what to think. But I also think that people are kind of stupid to be able to think on their own anyway.
Yeah.
Like,
What came first?
Right.
I mean, are you stupid and can't think because you're told what to think, or?
Exactly.
Like I think,
Yes.
I think the ideal thing would be that people are able to think for themselves, but getting ideas from others, because you can't think on your own without getting a little thought from somebody else anyway, right?
I don't know. I mean,
You could be sitting, you could be...
we're always getting ideas from culture. I mean, think about Wolf Boy. You know, has no real linguistic conceptions as far as anybody can tell. And their behavior is dramatically affected by it. I mean, they don't even understand that. Those are some bizarre stories, some of those feral children. And so yeah, we're getting, so I mean, maybe your level of conceptualization that you get, the more empirical it is, for example, will determine how well later, the boost you're talking about, how good it is.
Like I don't think I'd think anything of the Big Bang Theory, how the universe started, if I didn't know about the Big Bang Theory. I wouldn't be like critical of that theory without knowing about it first. Like I wouldn't think of my own way of how did the universe start without hearing somebody else's explanation of it first, or I don't know, some other crazy thing. But I don't know. Just I don't even know where I'm going with that.
Bill, go ahead, Bill. You got something to say?
It's just raw experimentation. It's just human nature. I mean, if you take a look at it, you know, it's observation. That's basically what it is. I mean, if you could be a guy, the island people you're talking about who don't know shit from
the Penang,
excuse my French, you know, hundreds of years ago, and so before, you know, gravity was even thought of or anything like that, and see the same apple that Newton saw fall, okay, and think the same thing. But
yeah, there's been all kinds of
actual thought process. You know, someone who was, let's say, in that culture, someone who was here in the United States or in England or anywhere else, okay, the majority of people are sheep. The masses are sheep, and they go where they're told to go, and they listen to what they are told to listen to. Therefore, it clogs.
That's even in the
thinking.
Bible. Your people are sheep.
Right. That's why I use it.
You know,
so it clogs how they think, and it applies to science, it applies to religion, it applies to just about everything that makes this world go around, okay? You can listen to 10 people in here who saw a commercial and say, oh yeah, that new Hyundai is the best car that there is on the market, okay? And they make it this and they make it like that. Okay, all they are is another infomercial. That's why word-of-mouth advertising is the best form of advertising. And the end result, if you take all that out of the picture, like I said before, where I wasn't talking about government anarchy, I'm talking about total anarchy of the way that we live. Okay, if you throw that all out of the window and everybody just sits there like dummies with their thumbs in their mouths and forget everything that they know, someone's going to come up with an idea to make something.
You know what? Ever since the beginning of time, civilizations have been governed. I mean, that's just how it works. It's not going to change.
I understand that.
The easiest way to govern people is to dumb them down and feed them with a bunch of crap.
Keep their minds clouded. When Pope does it, the president does it, they all do it. That's the point I'm making.
So, I mean, it's not going to change. It never has changed.
No. There have been times where it didn't exist.
It didn't exist, yes.
I will like the Penang. Oh, there's lots of examples though.
I'm talking mainly empires.
Civilized societies.
Oh yeah, empires are about. Well, that's hard to find that in
I should have
empires.
said that. Empires.
Right. Yeah. Those seem to be. You know, then you have the big mass wars, and empires associated with extreme poverty at one end of the economic spectrum, and prostitution. I mean, a lot of these things go away when you don't have an empire, when you have a pre-civilized group. And then the civilized group always tends to form empires, where even Native America had empires. In the Mayan in Central America, I mean, you see what happened in those. Apparently those were dark cultures. Yeah?
The larger the group, the easier it is for those people with power to distance themselves from everybody else. I mean, if this room was our civilization, if somebody in here was trying to exert power over everybody else, we'd say no. Right? I mean, they would have to be a very charismatic person in order to, and everybody else in here would have to have.
They may be able to coax somebody by first showing how much they care for everybody, and then trick people, and then.
But it's much harder with a smaller scale to control people than it is on a larger.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Founding fathers. And when it's all said and done, what you're saying is so right. As it grows, it actually gets worse. And in the end result, this Here, democracy, take that for an example. Okay, global democracy. All right, come on, dude. I'm trying to press out. Yeah. I mean, dude, when it's all said and done, there is absolutely not one idea that I don't think that has ever come to the forefront to the masses. One idea that's been pushed down our throats that has been the ultimate thing. Whether it was a car, or whether it was a government, whether it was a...
Well, there is one. There's one.
What is
and
it?
I know you'll disagree, which is good. But this one, that's right in the religious text. That's the ultimate. Remember that general, World War II general? He said the most powerful weapon in the world is the human soul on fire. Has anybody heard that quote? Huh? No, if I had the computer on, I'd look it up for you. Just go look up later. The most powerful weapon in the world is the human soul on fire. And yeah, I would agree with that. That's the ultimate. I mean, but I know you're saying it's not empirical, so that's good. You're right.
How would you relate that on the religious
Should agree.
I wouldn't even rate
because religion, I would say, the central entity studied in religion is the soul. That would be if I try to analyze Buddhism and Hinduism and Christianity, shamanism, Islam, from what little I know about Islam, it's always about, in the end, they're talking about the human is put in the world, and the world is a mess. They got to figure out these problems, how to deal with them. And the solution is to not focus your consciousness, so therefore getting at the soul. If you equate soul and consciousness, which I do, and get your consciousness not to focus on matter, but to focus on what creates matter. And it seems like all the religions do that, from what I can tell. So that would be almost a psychological project. And what was your question though again? Which one you asked? I can't remember either. But that was the answer to it somehow.
Yeah, I was saying, why would you put it under religious? The point that...
the soul. Yeah. Why is the soul the central entity? So yeah, the religions are about what a human is supposed to do in this mess that they're put in, and what they're supposed to do is focus on the creator of all things. Whatever that is, if you want to call it nirvana, or the Great Spirit, or whatever.
There's a universal belief in a higher entity.
I wouldn't say universal belief. I would say potential to have religious experience of not a higher entity, or lower, just the entity that generates all things.
Okay.
So it's got some, most religions say it's a light that's everywhere or something.
I agree with you, but I just have a problem with the word religious.
Okay, then replace it for shamanic or something. Shamanic experience. That's actually not as accurate though. Replace it for ecstatic mystical experience or something like that. That's how I use the word religious. You tend to, probably my fault, you probably think religious means, crusades and all that stuff.
I don't think that. I'm just trying to get more out of you. The point that I'm saying is that the masses would think that.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good, I like this word. I always have.
Always have.
Huh? I do, but I know it does throw people but that's not really my fault. People are taught what religious means by culture. Okay, they see a charlatan Hindu, street minister in India that takes all their people's money, or a big televangelist in America who's a rip-off artist. So they think that's religious. I mean religious by the books. Bible, Dhammapada, Bhagavad Gita, stuff like that.
You know what? I think it starts with school. They tell us we came from monkeys, and that's it. And then you start reading the Bible, and you're like, this can't, you can't even get to Genesis 2. You're like, no, it's just a big joke. So, yeah, and then you realize, obviously.
Yeah, science and religion are presented as having this huge rift.
I think science is if the majority is based on theory.
How about they just have two classifications, which is empirical and theoretical, and the world should live by both of those classifications. And if so,
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Hang on, Andy.
Part of the problem with the religious issue is the way in which language is used. So, for example, you might say, just to make it simple, there are two ways in which human beings use language. One is connotative, and the other is denotative. When you read the newspaper, you're using denotative language. When you read the religious text, you're using connotative language. And they're very different. Scientists, mathematicians, newspaper reporters generally use denotative language. They're describing reality with certain events, time, place, identity, and so on. In religious terms, when language is used, connotatively, it's actually using language in a special way that is trying to describe something sort of between the lines as opposed to what's on the line. You're pointing with language to something that's very much beyond reality, beyond, maybe even scientific investigation. So when you're taught to use denotative language in school, through science classes or something like that, you then apply that to religious texts, and that's not the correct use of language in that way, and that's what causes the confusion. They're trying to read the Bible as if it's a scientific text. It's not. It's poetry. It's pointing to something that
I don't know. I guess, yeah.
I mean, not always. There's some historical information embedded there as well, but you need to understand the context.
Yeah, some of it, when they say the ocean had, the waves sang, or something, or the, well, that's a good example. I mean, there's all kinds of verses that talk about, like, the ocean sang with the Lord's voice, or something. Now that, that could be poetical, or maybe, what if somebody had, an idea like cosmos is vibration, and even quantum physicists and string theorists think about that. Vibration is sound, and therefore all things are ultimately composed, all is composed of sound. And so therefore something like a wave is ultimately, just like your body or something, is some type of sound, and it's all created by whatever created the energy, that's the cosmos. So therefore then the waves do sing out, what about that? Could be a scientific interpretation, what might look like poetry, but which could be in science a bit more advanced than we even know about, Well, hang on, let Andy respond.
If you look at modern quantum physics, for example, or quantum mechanics, those guys are reduced to sounding like religious nuts.
I didn't even think of that. You read Bohr, Heisenberg, these guys sound like Hindu monks.
Right.
Very interesting. That's a good point.
A lot of them.
So what do you think, Andy? I mean,
because the
science and poetry merged.
Yeah, basically, when you get to the edge of the known, right, you are reduced to having to speak in poetic terms.
I've been saying for years that the most lofty scientific information it'll sound like poetry. When you start talking about the engines behind everything, it'll sound like poetry. Go, Bill. Good point.
Yes. As far as the Bible, going off of what Andy said, and it being in a poetic fashion, so on and so forth. Okay, I agree with that to a point, but I don't think that it was done.
You may think that, but I may disagree. I think it was done deliberately with a higher science.
I think it was done more on an angle of a lack of command of the language or an understanding of actual language at that time.
No way, dude.
They were making analogies to the best of their knowledge.
Hebrew?
And
so that's a good theory.
Yes, Hebrew is like, you're taking a farmer, dude. You're taking a farmer.
I mean, this is a theory too. What I just presented here is the verse in the Bible where it says, the Lord's voice sang through the waves, or we can hear the singing of the Lord through the waves. But that's a theory too, that's what they meant.
Honestly, who did they depict every single disciple and prophet that was in the Bible? What were they before they were a disciple and a prophet?
Some loser.
Exactly.
Which is the whole point. Just like Yoda's a little green guy who can't even...
From an academic standpoint, they probably did not have a full command of the Hebrew language at that time.
No. And religions worldwide, hang on, wait a second. Religions worldwide, the spiritual heroes are always like some whiny Luke Skywalker, who's like this tall and, doesn't know anything. It's always the case. Buddha he was a prince. And from a religious perspective, that's the biggest loser there is. Because that's the exact person who will never get the spiritual information because they're always flooded with material pleasures. Jesus was just some nobody carpenter. John the Baptist ate bugs and wandered around like a shaman in the wilderness.
Okay, that's my
Yoda
point.
was this tall, a
Are you-
little shrimp, and he couldn't even talk right.
But are you understanding my point, the point that I'm trying to make? If you go, let's say today, Jesus Christ came today, okay, and he went to Iowa, okay, and he found some dude that was sitting on a John Deere, and I'm not trying to classify people, but I'm just saying, let's just say that this guy did not go past the 5th grade.
That's exactly the kind of person Jesus would come and associate
Exactly.
with.
And Jesus
Or no,
tells
probably
him-
Jesus would go to local prison.
And Jesus tells him, go ahead out and write everything that I'm telling you right now. Go
Okay.
ahead out and preach. I want to see that guy be able to do that and have a full command of the English language. I seriously doubt that that's going to happen.
But you don't need, for religious
this is
religious
why the
info,
Bible-
you don't need that.
I'm saying the Bible, I'm talking about the actual verbiage. You're saying
Okay.
poetic. I'm saying that the people probably did not have a total command over the Hebrew language, so they use a lot of...
Yeah, but we don't know, because we don't know who wrote most of the Bible.
Yeah, we don't know. Now let's go back to the science factor.
Mhm.
Okay, you say they sound like a bunch of religious fanatics.
Me? I didn't say that.
No, I'm saying they.
Oh, okay, uh-huh.
I think
Okay.
Andy said that.
That's number 4.
Oh, like Niels
I
Bohr?
didn't say fanatics. I
Someone.
said that
We're poets.
the problem with the edge, confronting the edge of the unknown in terms of our understanding of what the mystery of the universe is, they are reduced to using poetry to try to describe it.
You know what?
That's all I-
Einstein
Great.
said
It's the
this.
best point all semester.
Einstein said this, and I totally believe it. If
What?
you can't explain it simply, you simply don't understand
Yeah,
it.
all those early physicists said that.
Exactly, and you're 100% correct.
Hey, I was quoting those guys
Same thing.
a couple weeks ago in this class saying Rutherford said if you can't explain your physics in 5 minutes to a barmaid, it's bad physics.
So we're taking an
Right,
educated
yeah.
professor, an educated scientist, an educated whatever, okay? I don't care, just
Educated, I mean,
whatever, versus a sheep herder, okay, who had ultimately the same task. One had to go out and preach the word of God and write it down. The other one has to go out and try and preach the word of science based upon undisciplined theorizing.
yeah. Oh,
No, I think-
well,
and they
hang
use
on
the
one second. Hey, let me go back to something that was said a long time ago, like 10 minutes ago.
Persuasive.
I mean, it was Zach, actually. You said something that made me think of this. I mean, we bash theorizing in this class a lot. But you're going to have, the point of this part of the class, chapter 11, is, we have to have some kind of theory, hypothesis is what we call it. And that's the only as far, we're not going to go any further in theory making in this class on hypothesis. So, I mean, for example, say you're measuring something. And here are your 2 measurements, and here's a 3rd measurement, and a 4th measurement, and so forth. Now, if I have 3, say I'm measuring, what am I measuring? Something interesting. Pardon? Your cabinet? That's really not interesting. You're measuring lion behavior, okay? I like lions, so that's why. So the lion, you're observing, the lion is sleeping, sleeping the 20 hours of sleeping, and then now it's devouring the zebra, devour, zebra, sleep, and now it's sleeping again, and now it's devouring a zebra again. Good life. And so you're making you're measuring something in their life. Say you're measuring their heart rate. You've got a heart monitor on it or something. You're studying cardiac muscle of lions for some reason. Okay, and you're making a chart here of all the different heart rates. Let's say during devouring the lion, the heart rate jumps, so it goes like this, and then sleeping it goes down, and then back up again. Okay. Now I've done something here which none of you paid any attention to, I bet. Okay. And what I did was I drew lines like this, connecting to make a chart sort of appearance of this right here. So that connection is called theory. Okay, I have no reason to connect these, but it's a theoretical idea to draw any kind of relationship between the 2 of these. Because all I have here is an observation, observation, observation. Do I know that these are connected? They seem to be through my memory. When I'm here, I have a memory of this one and I associate them in my mind. But do I see empirically, or can I explain theoretically a connection between these two? Not really. Okay, so theory does inundate our lives, but you just don't want it to take over. And when you make up theory, you have to do it well in the way that we're described in these notes. And why do I say that? Because the most accurate way to describe things is empirically. And so therefore, if we're making theories, we want to stay as close to the empirical as we can. You know, so, I mean, let's think of another theory. My wife was just talking the other day about somebody she knew, and they've got all these traits, or sorry, it was a little kid. And she was saying that this little kid is the grumpiest one at my daughter's little play group that she goes to. And the mother is also really grumpy. And so my wife drew a connection there. Okay? Huh? Yeah. Yeah, or somehow there's a connection. And I was thinking to myself, whoa, I didn't say this to her, but I'm thinking, whoa, that's the same idea. So we naturally do this. I mean, I do it all the time too, even though I try not to. So I mean, theory making is inevitable. And it's okay I would say, as long as you're anchoring it in the most proven method for verifying what's real and what's not real. I mean, the opposite would be down here, where you've got no anchor. See, when you're in the empirical, you've got an anchor to put all your theory making to lock it to. When you're down here, there's no anchor. There's just, you can say anything. You can say the lion is from space, and it flew on a spaceship 5 seconds ago.
It's physical observation. It's physical observation. I mean, bottom line, number one.
Yeah, that's why it's at number one. And some of you may disagree. Some of you may think this is higher or whatever. Fine. I'm just, from what I can tell, this is the right order. This may go to number one. 3 may go to religious experience. Could be number 1, but I'm not putting it there right now for simplicity. I'm just saying that these could be the same at times. But that's another story that we already discussed. So go ahead. You were going to say?
I'm just saying that it's a physical observation is all there is to it. And
but a lot of physical observations are wrong. Like those clock hands, the two black clock hands, those right now are moving. Didn't we talk about this before, remember?
Yeah, but you can't.
Those are moving. And all of you are like, no, that's not empirical because they look still.
Right.
You know? So, I mean, there's all kinds of observations. Like, this desk is solid.
Well, even the lion
right here, which is not.
The eat and sleep thing with the lion could potentially be empirical, depending on how, like, you sat there and watched the lion from the time of its birth to the time that it died.
Mm-hmm.
In theory, all right, the lion is going to do the same thing if it's done it for the past 20 years, first 20 years of its life or whatever.
Well, I mean, the empirical stuff, this is just a class of stuff that has a chance for being real info, is what I would say. But
sure.
But not all of it is. So here, you know, a lot of this stuff will fit into there, and then these could be the same, but so these are both of the same ilk. 1 and 3, because there's experience here, experience here. Notice this doesn't even have the word experience written in it. Undisciplined theorizing is non-experiential. Mathematical knowledge is kind of strange. Like I said, I don't know where that fits.
Well, I think that 2, 3, and 4 personally fall under like the
You think it's all quackery. That's fine. Okay, that's cool. Maybe you're right. I don't know.
What about the command? What was the 5 things of language? Okay, that we studied. Okay, the handout we had on that.
Yeah.
3 and 4 fall right in.
Yeah, this was number 1 on that one too. It's the same thing. Andy.
Isn't the problem with mathematical knowledge that it's a priori?
Yeah, that's the thing, because so it doesn't really.
What's that mean?
It just means something self-evidently true is the simplest way to explain it, or it's true independent. It's self-evidently true independent of any experience. I think it's the simplest way for a 100-level logic class to explain it, I think. So what Andy's getting at here is that when you're doing mathematical formulations, and say you discover something like a kind of algebra that 50 years later is found to be the perfect mathematics to describe the little teeny particles that make up everything, the quantum domain, which is that's what happened. Okay, it's called Lie group algebra. Or, I mean, there's certain kinds of algebras that come out of linear algebra that did that. So, what kind of knowledge is that? It's not empirical because you're not mapping it. You don't have experience mapped onto a reality that you're trying to describe something. It's not undisciplined theorizing, that's for sure. So what Andy's saying is a priori knowledge.
It's mechanical.
That's the best description. But we want to get a better handle. It's almost like there's another capacity of the mind to be able to map reality. It's like we've been given this art, this skill. I mean, our mathematical abilities, even if you're a Darwinist or an evolutionist, you have to fall over in your chair amazed over our mathematical abilities. I mean, we can't even form a logical inference. But that same person who can't even do that can take the most wildly advanced math and effortlessly, in many cases. A lot of the mathematical people that are good at math, like the University of Michigan, I was talking to a math student the other day, and he's like, oh, I never study, 4 point, he's taking, 9,000 level math and stuff like this, and effortless. So it's almost like this is in us, in a lot of people. I'm really bad at math personally, but not every, so I mean, there's something interesting, that's a big story, if somebody can find out what this is, what kind of knowledge this is, and why it's in us. Yeah, Josh.
And not just like the conceptual idea of mathematics, but like mathematics in your everyday life. I mean, even people who may not be good at math at all can take a basketball and throw it into a basketball hoop. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's pure mathematics.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, you're calculating a trajectory.
You're calculating a trajectory, calculating force, and they're doing all of that without even really being aware that that's what they're doing.
Now, like a zebra can do mathematics. I mean, a zebra can calculate the distance, or is that math? I mean, the distance of the line. Often you see those videos like there'll be a big horde of zebras, and then like the lions out there prowling around on the edges. So I mean, imagine if you lived your life that way. You had, you're in a group, and then your killer is right there all the time circling you. But the zebra is totally relaxed until there's just that point where the lion gets too close. Then they all scatter. Okay, so they know exactly. So I don't know if that's math or not, but.
Well, how did the Egyptians and the Mayans know algebra?
Wait, hang on. Andy's got a hand up a second.
Yeah, I would put that in the category of biophysics.
It could be a perception.
To be able to calculate, if you wanted to do it in terms of calculus, Newton would be able to give you the mathematics to explain how much pressure, how much pressure it would take to make that art into that basket. But in terms of its actual place in the scheme of things, I think it would fit into biophysics more than it would fit into mathematics. To describe it in terms of numbers, that would be calculus. Right. So that's right.
I would say it's real blurred. I mean, I kind of agree with both of you. It's hard to tell. I mean, I definitely see the mathematical. I mean, figuring out that trajectory of the cannonball and this one ship bombing another back in the 1600s, whatever, is mathematical. But then again, it's experiential in a sense. If you're doing it like if you're a zebra or my daughter shooting hoops or something. So I agree with both of you. Not really sure. Bill, you were going to say something then? And then we go to notes. Go ahead.
I'm just saying math. They say that math pretty much runs everything. There's a mathematical reason for everything that occurs.
Oh yeah, that seems to be the case. I mean, it's amazing. Now, think of how amazing that is. The physical world you see is governed by a couple of principles: time, space. There's physical objects have a size and a solidity and so forth. The quantum domain, all the opposite are the case. You don't have cause and effect fades away, time fades away, space, distance, all the things that you conceptualize in your material perspective fade away, but still math describes both.
Right.
Very interesting. That's amazing.
And if that is true, if there is a mathematical reasoning for everything that does occur, shouldn't that fall under just straight empirical evidence?
No, because empiricism requires experience.
Yeah.
Mathematics is only a description of what is found.
Yeah, you can do math without ever leaving your closet.
How about a sub-point of empiricism?
I would say no. I mean, to have empiricism, you have to have experiencer, experienced, and some kind of where the experiencer is. Yeah, you have to have those two. Okay. So, but with math, you're really just in the domain of the experiencer.
And it's also.
What do you think? Wait, hold on, Andy.
Yeah, I would say that's exactly the problem.
Okay.
And that's why we have the distinction a priori and a posteriori.
Okay. Now, if you take music, for instance.
I can't. Sorry, go ahead.
If you take music, for instance, everything has a mathematical value, time, signature, time changes, so on and so forth in the creation of music from a production standpoint. I can read, but I play by ear. I think we're playing by ear more so than reading music. Now, when it's all said and done,
what do you play?
I can play guitar, piano,
oh, cool. Nice.
I'm not going to listen.
You just bring it in.
Okay. I'm not going to listen.
Oh, really?
I'm not going to listen. I'm saying I'm not going to listen to a music teacher tell me that theoretically it's not going to fit in a music theory class. Okay, this won't fit if you try to change here. You know, instead of going 4-4-8 and to go 4-2-4-6-5-4-8. If I wanted to do something like that, mathematically it may not fit, but sound-wise I'm going to make it fit. And that's
or maybe there's another math.
It defies math is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
I'm saying that sound.
Does it really, or is there just another mathematics that would describe it?
Possibly true. I just did verbally.
Yeah. If we could just map what you said, that would be the mathematics.
Right. So trying to tag. So I guess I kind of like answered my own question there because.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Trying to tag math on to everything that occurs and make it empirical is not necessarily true.
All right. Let me go on to some of these notes here. So last time, students, remember we discussed the pyramid stuff, and oh yeah, that's where we were. So I've got 25 minutes to get through. Okay, remember last time we talked about, okay, so we wanted to find the most bizarre, this is what you're going to do in your homework. You're going to find the most bizarre thing you've ever observed and try to make a hypothesis. So it's going to be, you're going to have a lot of room to do whatever you want. Okay? All you have to, you can say anything as long as it's minimalistic, which means it has the least emotional extravagance. Okay? You know, the description of the pyramids is that, you know, I mean, something crazy and wild. And you want it to be as close to empirical laws, not laws, the way the empirical world works is best you can tell. Yeah?
Well, the craziest thing that I've experienced was completely emotional.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Oh.
Then try to describe that emotional event and make a hypothesis. Like say, I had a student, I talk about this all the time, I had a student who took ecstasy. So let's go right to that, you know. When he was in high school, at a party, and it changed his entire, have I talked about this?
A little bit.
Yeah, he saw the alien?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said everything, all of a sudden he saw all the air was made of electricity, and across the pool at the party was an alien, was talking to him mind to mind, or something, and it was some kind of holiness he sensed everywhere, and he completely changed forever. Okay? That could be your event. You try to describe with a hypothesis. That's a good one. You can even use that on your homework and say, I don't have anything weird, but that guy did. So I want to describe that with a hypothesis. You got me?
Yeah, like hypothesis and how, like why I experienced it, or...
Man, you know, I wonder if that student, I hope he looks, because I talk about that on radio and class and everything. So hopefully he'll look me up and say, I heard you talking about me. Go ahead, though.
Yeah, but like, am I trying to hypothesize why it happened to me, or how it happened?
You're trying to, okay, good question. A hypothesis is trying to make a model. So you're trying to, it's almost like a blueprint for the building. The blueprint describes how the building fits together is, of course, you know, a blueprint's a big deal, so your hypothesis is going to target one little point. Right. So you don't want to talk about why it exists. You could, if you formed a hypothesis for something's existence, that'd be fine. But I mean, really what a hypothesis is just try to explain something's nature. And if that involves you having to explain, you know, like if somebody said, my hypothesis is the universe. So weirdest thing, why does it exist? Then you'd want to start talking about what created it. So then you could, your model may include, you know, more extravagant things or something.
It's an informative outline.
Yeah, I still don't know.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it. Go ahead, Al.
Real quick, for like, saying if it was like the ecstasy we used in that situation.
Yeah, you could use that. That's a good one.
I don't really.
You could use that.
Well, what would your model would be?
What would the explain it in nature be? Like why he used it or what it did to him when he used it? Like I don't get what. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, you'd want to explain the experience. So here also you got this rational kid.
So I would say he took ecstasy and then I would explain he was rational and then I would explain the experience what happened to him. Is that what you're saying?
You want to form. I mean, try to form right now with me a model for why he would see electrical light or the air being electrical light and an alien.
Okay, so
here's one idea. It was real. Just go with it, okay? It was in my model. You just come up with something to describe it, okay? So when you form a hypothesis, you're going to just start start by attempting a one-sentence description. That'll get you started. Oh, okay, and anything. Just as long as you're minimalistic and least emotionally extravagant. Well, what better place to start than to say it was either unreal, a hallucination, or it was real. That's good. That's very minimalistic. We're not saying it was his savior from the fourth heaven or something like that. You're real simple, you know. It was either real. So I say my hypothesis, my model is it was real. And you might want to say your second statement would be it was real because an empirical experience has the best chance of an empirical. I don't want to say what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say something like an empirical experience is a powerful mode of knowing. So therefore, the alien experience has a likely probability of being real. Okay, compared to, an undisciplined theory. Think about it. An undisciplined theory has a very low probability of being real. A direct empirical experience has a very high probability of being real, compared to undisciplined theorizing. So your second sentence could be something like,
so are we trying to approve, within this outline, whatever you want us to write?
Hypothesis, man.
Right. Hypothesis. Are you getting at that we should try to prove?
No, you don't have to prove anything. You're just trying to form a descriptive model for the nature of the thing.
Okay.
Dovis.
Can you do another explanation?
Yeah.
The high one.
Oh, that one's so good though. Well, let me just. The next sentence would be you could say, it's real. So the alien example. I'm going to put this in my notes actually. It's real because empirical experience the most trustworthy. And it was an empirical experience in his ecstasy state. Taking the substance, the synthetic substance ecstasy.
So that would be like the second sentence for anything.
And I'd be like, man, that was good. Check, plus. I'll do another example just a second. Is that?
I have an example I just...
Oh, okay, good.
I mentioned it in the class before, but how I thought the moon formed, if you drop a little pebble in water, you'll see it goes in and then the water displaces, and when it comes back up, a little ball pops up.
Yeah, I've seen models of that too.
Yeah. So
where they'll have a big, a big picture of Earth with a big, like this.
Yeah.
And the big splat, and then they'll have drops going like this, and it's all formed up like that.
Right. So you could say
that's good.
Yeah.
It's totally theoretical, but that's fine because that's what hypothesis is. It's there. You see, what's your observation? What is the moon? Okay, now that would fit. You all could use this one too. The most bizarre thing you've all experienced, and you didn't even know it, is the moon. Why? It's a huge satellite right next to a planet. Totally weird and bizarre and rare. It doesn't even turn. Okay, it goes like this. As the Earth spins, its same face always is there. That's weird. Now that could be explained by tidal forces. Not sure, but it's not clear because if it was explained by tidal forces, it should be the same part. But it's not. So it's really weird. The moon also has a diameter of 2,160 miles. Anybody Jewish? Jewish? I'm not. Anybody? What does the number 216 mean in Talmudic Judaism? It's the God.
Yahweh.
Yeah. The tetragrammaton. Okay?
284 million miles.
Right, the 280, yeah. The miles,
284 million.
No, 864,000.
860.
That's another interesting number.
Okay.
And then the Earth is 7920. So anyway, here's another thing. The moon at the winter solstice follows exactly the same trajectory through the sky as the sun at the summer solstice. What? Did anybody just hear? That was the most unbelievable thing you've ever heard all semester. Everybody fall down in amazement. The moon at the winter solstice follows exactly the same trajectory through the sky as the sun at the summer solstice. What are the chances?
At any point on the Earth that you're saying?
Yeah, it starts off on the horizon and goes whoop, up, and in the summer solstice, that's the sun. And how do we know this? Because a temple was built in Ireland called New Grange, where people celebrated this little known fact, and only one day a year, just a couple, 3 hours in the middle of the day, you have the sun shoots all the way down the central corridor of at the summer solstice of the temple, right at the solstice, okay? And the moon does the same thing, 3 hours in the middle of the night at the winter solstice. Okay, again, remember I told you the moon was weird? Okay, so things are weird. You don't need, I like the alien stuff. Okay, so let's get okay, give me your weirdest experience, Novus.
I don't have one.
You got some.
That's why we're confused.
With the alien
Okay.
thing, I don't feel like it being real and then it was an empirical experience. That doesn't explain it to me. Like, I don't understand.
She says that her reasoning was because that person was on.
Like,
Oh,
they saw that because
okay.
they were high. Like, you know what I mean?
Okay,
They
then
didn't
that's
see it
the
because
other.
it was real.
So this is attempt 1. We started off that it's real. Okay, attempt 2, another angle you can take, it's fake. It's fake. And because, oh, here we go, let's get, say you read some books about this, and because psychedelic states, I mean, of course, are like dream states, and dreams are fake. You say. I may disagree, but you say that that's the case. Okay? So therefore, it's hallucinations triggered by brain alteration from the synthetic substance. Now, you don't have to get that technical. But that's a good, minimalistic model. You can explain it in your own words, you know? So there's no, oh, you said the wrong answer, Carrie.
I know.
You know, I mean, it's just all you have to do is come up with a model. If people, give me something and says, my weirdest experience was one time when I was young, I thought I heard a voice, and I swear it was a ghost. And so then your first point of trying to explain it is that, angels came down from, some planet or something, okay? Now notice that's not minimalistic. Because minimalistic means it's the closest possible thing that could explain it. Explains what it is.
Okay, so for the alien...
So why do you need angels? There's one sect and one religion. Why do you need planets? You need real, sorry, go ahead.
But the alien wanted to say that it is real, and it's because he was high, and the alien wanted to talk to him while he was high, not while he was sober.
Or his mental state could, in his ordinary state of existence,
It wouldn't be there.
he wasn't, spiritualized.
Yeah.
And the alien required him to be spiritualized to communicate. Yeah, that's great. I like it. That would be roughly minimalistic. Because those are just the facts. A psychedelic substance will make you in a somewhat spiritualized state depending on your circumstances. And if there are spiritualized beings out there that are going to communicate with you, you have to be where they are, or else it's like they're talking to a cockroach. Imagine trying to talk to a cockroach. Hello, Mr. Cockroach. There's nothing to talk about. You have to be like them to talk to them. So to associate with a spiritualized alien, you have to be like it. Yeah. So that's, you can go anywhere. The point is that making hypotheses is something you will do your whole life, and in a way, it's the basis of your life. And most people never even take 1 minute of their entire life to stop and think about how they should do it. Your whole life is hypothesis making, if you didn't know this. And none of you, probably, have ever stopped to think about, is there a method? Is that?
If everybody understands the assignment, I was wondering what you think of your take on dreams is.
Okay, hang on 1 second. I like it. Anybody have any questions? You want to do one more example quick?
Yeah.
5 for that and 5 for Zach? Yeah.
Okay, so how would I do mine? One of my crazy experiences I had was actually sleep paralysis. I'm like nervous.
Oh, I know a ton about sleep paralysis. Have you ever seen Snow White?
Yeah.
Old hag. Anyway, go ahead.
But how
Well, because that's the sleep paralysis.
Yeah, but how would I put that into a hypothesis?
Okay. Describe first. Okay, so this assignment is very good, very courageous of you discuss this. This is very common though. So,
What-
scientific-
That's where you're conscious of.
it's
You're actually, it's like you're awake, but well, okay, what I've had it is, it's kind of different, because I've had same times I've actually seen like a demon above me, or you be asleep, your body is asleep, but your eyes are awake, your mind is. So it's like you can't move, you can't scream,
Yeah, I know.
and you got to be focused on one part,
Really?
all of your body.
And I know-
You're asleep.
That's a good description. Good description. So the paralysis is, yeah, you know, there's a, do you know of the cure for it? I mean, I've heard there's a cure for it.
No, I've actually never heard of a cure for it, but the only way I seem like to get myself out of it is if I have to focus all my energy on one part. Like if I want to move my arm, I got to focus all on that.
Oh.
So just focus and.
Wow. That's
It takes
interesting.
a while because your mind, part of your mind is still asleep, but your eyes just.
Oh, okay, one time I was on the radio and I talked about this, and I had 1 billion people email me and say, if you say Jesus or Yeshua or something, it goes. Not only is it vanished, but it won't come back, or at least for a while. If you could see, I mean, if you wanted to participate in this experiment, if you have it and you could do that, I guess it's hard to do in the state. And let me know if it works for you. I'd be curious. It's up to you. I don't want to turn you into a guinea pig or something. But real quick, and then I want to go through this, because that's a good one.
Okay, I was going to say, like, yeah, I know, like, 2 people that's happened to, like, both of them are my friends, and, there's 2 different kinds of, yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I know it's
They
very
see
common.
demons, they see devils,
Yeah.
like demons, and they can't, like, it's, oh my God, when they explain
This is
it,
it's a psychology. You can take a psychology class and we'll talk about this in there.
Okay, but listen, I think this is really how it occurs, because when you go to sleep, you go into 2 different kinds of sleep. First sleep you go to is deep sleep, which is your mind. Okay, you get 2 types of sleep: your body, then your mind. So when you wake up in that position of sleep, that means that your body.
Oh,
is in
I see what you're saying.
sleep.
So the body's asleep, but not the
But your
mind.
mind, yeah. So
Anybody
that's
ever had
why-
a lucid dream? Oh, that's a similar idea.
Yeah, that's why
interesting,
your
yeah.
body can't move, because it's asleep, but your mind is awake. That's why. That's really, I think, why.
So have any of you ever had a dream where you were aware that you're dreaming, you could even kind of control the dream for a couple seconds,
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah.
That's what you're talking. Yeah. So there is some of you may have some experiential evidence there are states like this where the body's asleep but not the mind.
Yeah.
That maybe it's real quick. 5 seconds.
Yeah, well, for this, REM sleep, if they've measured it, your eyes are moving constantly, and they're like taking in this false perception of vision. And I think what that is your body release, like when you're sleeping, you don't have muscle control. Like, it's completely cut off. But the sleep paralysis, what I think is that your muscle control comes back for just a second, so that when your eyes are open,
Then you can utter or stare, like Lexus was saying.
well, not even. The way I see it is like when your eyes are moving and your eyes are closed when you're sleeping, you're taking in these false visions. Like it's your mind creating. Well, that's
Maybe.
right.
The shaman would disagree.
Right, but like when your eyes are open but you're still sleeping, you're taking in the visual perceptions of your room and stuff. So those are real, just as real as when your eyes are closed.
Well, we don't know. I mean, there could be, your consciousness is not necessarily just a physical item. If not, then it could be spanning dimensions. Who knows what those dimensions are like?
Well,
it could be a simple physics experiment. It could be that there are other different realms overlapping ours, and maybe there are mean nasties in some of those realms.
Sure.
Who knows? I mean, string theory predicts that.
Yeah, I'm just like generalizing.
I mean, predicts that there's other realms.
Yeah, when your eyes are closed, like
Not
there could be
nasties.
other realms. But when your eyes are open, it's this realm. It's this reality. So that's why I think that is. Like your body's asleep, but your vision is taking in those things because it's open. It's right here in front of you. So I don't think it's like you're awake, but you're in this.
Okay, I agree. If we don't get to your dream question, we'll get to that. Remind me next time. Whatever you guys want to ask. It's a philosophy class. It's not. So sleep paralysis. The description of the assignment that you have is on your second page of your notes, and it says, find the 3 craziest things you've ever seen. Okay, so step 1, jot them down. Now notice I purposely use the word jot. That means casually give me your best description. Doesn't mean you describe it right, kids, or I'm giving you an F. Just give me your best shot. Okay, we're never going to grasp what they really are. Just tell me what they are in a sentence or 2. Jot them down. And then use the techniques described above to formulate a good hypothesis that might explain. So, sleep paralysis is, here's my jot. Is anybody? It's just a state of conscious sleep. Now I say conscious, so not your body, where you can't move and where possibly dark religious figures reside. Okay, that's just the most bare bones description I can. It's so bare bones it's almost bad. Okay, but that's the point. That's all we really need right here. You can write 1,500 page books on this phenomenon, but we're giving it in one little sentence. You can write 2 sentences if you want. So let's try to. Somebody try to. Okay, so the second part of your description, your assignment. Formulate a good hypothesis. Model. So let's be as minimalistic and unemotional as we can. Somebody take a stab. Give me a first attempt at a report or description. Remember a report we studied earlier in the semester is just absolutely unemotional, desk. Pen. Pardon?
Why this kind?
Yeah, try to give me just, you don't have to describe the whole thing, just some aspect of it. Anything, any simple, terse little statement that'll give me some rational description of what this is.
Is this an illness?
We already had 3, sorry.
Is this an illness? I don't know what it is. Like this.
Oh, not an illness.
So what is it?
There is really.
How does people get it though? What is it? They don't know.
The spiritually, those who have a spiritual proclivity for it.
Is it like the episode sleepwalking, right?
Oh yeah, no, sleepwalking. You're asleep. It's the opposite. Your body's awake.
Your body is awake, but your mind is asleep. So this is like the opposite, right?
Yeah, real good. I like that. I never thought of that. That's good.
Watching TV, and I just fall asleep watching TV, and what happened?
Oh, everybody's asleep when they're watching TV.
No.
Imagine their skills.
I'm just saying those.
No, I hear you.
Fall asleep and it might happen.
Okay, we already had. The best description. I mean, that was really good. Okay, so Hawaii says look how simple this is. Your body is asleep, or let's say the person's body is asleep, and their consciousness is awake. Unbelievable. This is incredible. We've already used her description here to say, oh, it describes sleepwalking in a way. I mean, as being an inverse. So look how easy that was. Did we have to get dramatic and say Satan is possessing their soul or something like? No. This is just the most simple, raw. It's what you see. I mean, if you're in it or if you're seeing a person that has it, they'll be like this, and you see a sleep body, and so if they report their consciousness is awake later, then your account is this. Look how easy that is. That's good too. The simple descriptions are always the good ones. Okay? The ones that are most, and look, this is totally as close as possible we can get to the empirical. Look, the body's asleep. How much more empirical can you get than that? I mean, do we have to say something like, the body had a dark force take over it, and the dark masters were behind that force from the other realm? Okay, you could do that, but that's not, this is what's empirical here. Okay, so then you might want to give another one. What's a furthering to this model in 1.5 minutes? The next, what's another terse statement we could give to further describe the model? Oh, well, we haven't addressed this.
Dark religious figure.
That almost goes back to the alien, so, and then you could maybe put a comma or start a new sentence and say, where hallucinatory, if you want to go the Domus route, say you're making this stuff up, it's not real, or you could go my route and say they're real, or either one. You say where you hallucinate fears, something like that, okay? Or if you think this is not, that the creatures aren't real. If you think they're real, you could say something like, where you see the beings of the other domains physicists talk about. Now, physicists don't talk about other beings. They talk about other domains. So that's incredibly... now this is, you can see more theoretically here. We're trying to explain something. But look, all we're saying is, well, if there's dark figures you don't ordinarily see, they have to be in a domain. So there's another domain that overlaps where you exist. Very simple stuff. So, I mean, the point, you all need to just chill, okay? This is supposed to be a cool assignment. I mean, I know it's not as cool as The Big Game or something that's on, or, you know, MTV Beach Party Weekend or whatever's on, whatever happens to be on TV. But I mean, the only way you're going to get this wrong is if you don't do it. And to do it just means describe stuff. Yeah?
So you could say that the body was asleep and the dark religious figures wanted to talk to you and you only needed your mind away.
That's interesting. They wanted communication with you. Totally minimalistic. They're there. And you're afraid, so there's some interaction. Real good. See? Everybody, Exhibit A. Dovis just did it. Okay? Carrie Dovis. Her name's not Dovis. That's her last name. Okay, so if you have any other questions, we can describe. We can talk about this after class. We can talk about it for hours and hours if you want. Okay. And okay, everybody have a good weekend. Hey. Oh, and anybody who has a test, I have them. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.